Let's go ahead and look at notes 12.4. And what we're going to look at here is called box and whisker plots. So how do I make and interpret a box and whisker plot? First of all, and I've screenshotted this out of your book, it summarizes, it's a graph, it's in the form of a graph, and it summarizes the data. So another representation of the data. You can see here that there are 5 very important parts of our box and whisker plot. First of all, 3 of them you know. Minimum value, that's easy, that's the smallest. The median, so you actually find the middle of all the numbers. We did that in our last lesson, was finding the median. And the maximum value, that should be easy to find as well, it's the biggest number. So those 3 are the easiest to find. We'll talk about how do we find what's called Q1 and Q3. Those stand for our quartiles. Okay, so we have Q1, quartile 1, and we have Q3, which stands for quartile 3. Okay, you can see that these 5 pieces of information help create your box and whisker plot. Okay, we can see our whiskers, and then our box is the middle piece with our median in the middle, and then a whisker on the end. Some important information. The left whisker from the median to the first quartile, that's 25% of our data. Okay, so when the box extends from the first quartile to the third quartile, okay, it contains about 50% of our data, and the very end would create, so we got about 25% of our data for each of these areas. We got 25% here, about 25 here, 25 here, and 25 here. Okay, let's go in and talk about actually creating it and the how-to. So here's some information. We have our daily attendance information. And so the very first thing, because we do need to find our median, is we need to put these numbers in order. So I'm going to start with, and when I write these, I kind of cross them off as I go. After 24 is going to be 26. See if you can finish it. And so now that I've listed all of these values in order from least to greatest, we are actually going to start by finding, our minimum value is pretty easy. It jumps out at us. So if we talk about our min, that's at 24 here. Okay. If we talk about our max, and you can see why I'm doing this here in a second, that's 33. Okay. Next, what we want to do is I would find my median right in the middle. And so to find our median here, I'm kind of crossing them off as I go. It's between the 29 and the 30. So what is halfway between 29 and 30? And I kind of draw a line there. It's 29.5. Okay. Now, those should be easy. That should be all previous information and knowledge that you know. Now we're going to find what's called Q1 and Q3. So quartile 1. Quartile 1 is actually going to be a median as well of the lower set of numbers. So we're going to look at these bottom 4 numbers below the median, and we're going to find the middle of those. And so the middle of these is actually going to fall at 27. And for quartile 3, we're going to find the middle of our numbers above the median, our numbers left above the median. And here we would have right between the 31 and the 32, which is 31.5. So these 5 pieces of information, they actually help you to create that box and whisker plot. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to draw a line here and I'm going to try to go through the graphing piece with you. Okay, we know that our minimum value is at 24. So we might want to start off at 24. I'm going to count by 2s. So then we have 26. We have 28. We have 30. We have 32. And we have 34. And what you're going to notice is that when you create a box and whisker plot like this, when you put your pieces of data, I don't actually put it on the number line. I usually put them either below or a little bit above. So I'm going to put a dot at every one of these locations. The minimum value is 24. So I'm going to put a dot at 24. The quartile one's at 27. The median is at 29.5, so we're pretty close to 30. We're going to have to estimate there. Quartile 3 is at 31.5, and the max is at 33. So our middle creates the box. And we have our whiskers. And so if I were to label these for you, here's your min, here's your Q1, here's your median, or quartile 3, I'm sorry, quartile 2, here's your quartile 3, and here is your maximum value. And you should be able to actually pick those pieces of information straight off of your box and whisker plot. Let's go ahead and look at one last question. When we create a box and whisker plot, it's super important that we find our five different values here. Our minimum, our Q1, our median, our Q3, and our maximum. And that's it. Here. And here what they're looking at is in this box and whisker plot, which class has the greater inner quartile range. And I haven't actually talked to you about that yet, so this is a perfect time to talk about the inner quartile range. The inner quartile range is the difference. It's a form of dispersion. It is the difference between Q3 and Q1. So we're literally subtracting Q3 and Q1. So let's look at quartile 3. It would be located on class A right here, which would be 67. So we would take, to find our IQR, another way of saying IQR, or inner quartile range, we would take 67, take away, and Q1 here is located at 63. So it's our arm span, that difference there is about 4 inches. So this one is 4 inches. That would be the IQR. Looking at class B, my IQR is going to be a 68 take away. And this is looking at 62.5. So if I have 68 and I take away 62.5, I'm going to be at 5.5 inches. So the question, which has the greater inner quartile range, bigger range there, that's going to be class B, 5.5 inches. So we've talked about box and whisker plots. Here are 2 box and whisker plots that we compared. I introduced to you how to find the IQR, the inner quartile range.